So hello guys, good morning. So in this video we'll be testing out the Black Myth Wukong benchmark tool, which was released I guess yesterday. So for your information, I would like to share my system specs with you. So for my CPU, I'm using a Intel Core i7 14700K, and the graphics card is NVIDIA GeForce RTX 4080. This is the Asus ROG edition, overclocked edition. Motherboard, I'm using Asus ROG Strix Z790H, so it is overclockable. For the RAM, I'm using 216 gig sticks of Corsair Dominator RAM, clocked at 6000 megahertz. Storage, I'm using the Samsung SSD 980 Pro 2 TB as my primary storage, and this one, as you can see, HGST is the secondary storage, which is the hard drive. So I'm using Wi-Fi, which is not significant of much significant over here. And for cooling of this CPU, I'm using NZXT 360 mm AIO water cooled cooler. So let's test the benchmark of this game, which is going to be launched on 20th of August, that is 6 days from now. So let's run the benchmark tool. For the display, I am using my LG C3 OLED TV. For this benchmark testing, I have not enabled HDR. So just go to the settings and display. As you can see, it is set to 4K. Frame rate cap is off. VSync is off because we'll be using VRR or G-Sync as NVIDIA calls it. For the graphic settings, these are the default settings, which will give you more than 60 FPS most of the time. So the graphic preset is set to cinematic, which is the highest quality. As you can see, this is low, medium, high, very high, and cinematic. So we'll be playing at cinematic quality. Let's apply the settings. And super resolution, this is basically DLSS mode. So we have set DLSS to balanced. Super sampling is set to DLSS. Other options are TSR, FSR, XeSS for Intel graphics cards, and I guess AMD is supported. FSR is there. So we'll be using DLSS, which is one of the best, and we'll be enabling frame generation. So it adds extra frames to your games to achieve the 60 FPS target mark. So these are the settings. We have also enabled ray tracing, which is set to very high. So let's jump to the benchmark. So I'm also using MSI Afterburner, as you can see on the top left corner, which gives you the detailed information of the game which is running presently. So the benchmark is on. As you can see, we are getting above 60 FPS most of the time. The frame time is around 14 to 15 milliseconds, which is good. About 20 is not good, like you'll get lots of stuttering and all. So the current VRAM usage is 10.3 GB, RAM usage is 13.4 gigabytes. We are using 13% of the CPU power. It's using almost 77 watts, and 300 watt is being used by the graphics card. The quality of reflection and shadow is good. It's running on balanced. So I guess the native rendering resolution would be 1440p, and then the graphics card will be upscaling it to 4K. So yes, there is adequate sharpness in this video. or I can say the rendered video of the game. The details look good, some artifact pop in here and there. Reflection quality is good. I mean, at these settings the game is quite playable at 60 plus FPS. There is stuttering sometimes, but it is rare. There is no artifacting or ghosting of the moving objects like those leaves were there. So in certain games, if you enable frame generation and DLSS, there is artifacting of a rapidly moving object, so it is all absent. Okay, so this is the end of the benchmark. These are the results. So we are getting 64 FPS on an average. Maximum was 75 in the last scene. Minimum it went to 55. So these are the settings. These are the best settings for RTX 4080. If it was RTX 4080 Super, it would have been like the minimum FPS would have been 60. It wouldn't go down to 55 or below that. So let's see how the rasterization thing works on this game. We'll disable ray tracing for that matter. We'll go to graphics, ray tracing set to off, DLSS set to quality. Okay, then we'll apply. Frame generation would be off, and for these settings to work, the game needs to be restarted. So let's restart it. Okay, let's relaunch the game again with ray tracing set to off. So we'll test the rasterization performance of this particular graphics card. So when you will first start the game, it will require a shader compilation. It will take a few seconds to a few minutes depending upon the CPU you are using. So in my case it took around like 15 to 20 seconds because I'm using quite a powerful CPU, that is i7-4700K. Let's go to settings and verify the settings. It is set to DLSS quality, frame generation set to off, ray tracing is off, frame generation is on, ray tracing is off. Return and go to benchmark. Let's see how does it perform. Okay, so we are getting above 70 FPS without ray tracing. So the game is internally rendering at 1800p and we are getting on an average of 80 FPS and above. Frame time is 11.6 milliseconds. The VRAM usage has significantly reduced. It's around 8.5 gigs. RAM usage is almost gone up by 200 megabytes. CPU usage is the same. But man, the image quality is awesome. Now looking awesome because it is internally rendering at quite a high resolution than the last one. So yes, if you want to favor resolution, just a little more resolution, just a little more sharpness, you can go with ray tracing off. It looks good. I mean, the thing with ray tracing is that unless and until you compare the two images side by side, one with ray tracing on and one with ray tracing off, you won't tell a difference. I mean, most of the people cannot tell difference between ray tracing off and on. So yeah, if you are having an RTX 4080, you can very well go and play with these settings. The reviews and whatever people, the good gamers of the industry, are telling that this game is awesome, looks awesome, plays awesome. I think one must give a try. Definitely, I'm gonna buy this game. I'll wait and watch about the gameplay. I love these kinds of games, and most probably I'm gonna buy this. But I'll wait for the actual reviews of this game. The graphics are awesome. I mean, really awesome. It would be such a fun to play this game. So in the last benchmark test, we'll do with frame generation set to off. So on an average, we are getting 81 FPS. The minimum was 67. Motion blur, I really don't like it, so I always turn it off. Okay, frame generation is set to off. DLSS is there as for super sampling, and super resolution DLSS quality mode is set to quality. I am guessing we'll get around 50 to 60 FPS. That's my guess. Okay, the VRAM usage has dropped to 7.5. And the frame time has gone from 15 to 20 milliseconds. There was a big stutter there. So it's on average, it's around 50-ish FPS, like 50 to 55 FPS on an average. It's on the lower 50s, but yes, it is playable. But the problem would be that under heavy loads, the frame rate could go down. If it goes down like in the mid 40s, early 40s, then it won't be much playable. So yeah, these settings are kind of playable without frame generation if you like that responsiveness, because yes, I agree, frame generation, if you enable it, it makes the game a little, laggy or stuttery, and someone says that it looks like 30-ish FPS. But I won't agree mostly to that. But yeah, it looks sluggish. It looks sluggish under certain circumstances, during fast moving sequences, fast paced sequences, action scenes, and all. So yeah, there are always pros and cons with every technology that's available. But if you play this game on a 1440p monitor, then I think it would run at above 60 FPS most of the time. So these are the findings. Average you are getting 54 FPS. The lowest was 10 FPS. Initially there was a big stutter. Now the best settings that can be enabled and played with would be as follows. So we'll go to display, graphics. We'll set this to DLA, then frame generation on, then apply. So DLA means deep learning anti-aliasing, so it renders mostly at native 4K resolution with frame generation enabled. Let's see how does this game perform. Benchmark confirm. My guess would be 60ish, low 60 FPS. So the memory usage is 9.9 GB, around 10 gigs of VRAM usage. Okay, so initially it was early 50s, mid 50s, now it's early 60s. The frame time is kind of good, 15 milliseconds. CPU usage has significantly gone down because we are not upscaling. This is the raw performance of this particular graphics card. So this is the rasterized performance of the graphics card. This is much playable. If you can compromise with the ray tracing at these particular settings, it is quite playable. Most probably, if I want to play this game, I'll play at these settings. The game looks awesome, but you can also play it at DLSS quality. It looks great there too. Just enable frame generation, set it to DLSS quality, and you'll be good to go. Like, you'll get 70-80 FPS most of the time. So these two settings will be my favorite, but if I want to enable ray tracing, play with ray tracing enabled, I'll go to DLSS balanced, frame generation on, and ray tracing set to very high. Because these kinds of games, unless and until you enable all the settings, like highest settings on the graphics side, they won't look good. Like, seriously, they won't look good. Resolution is another thing, but the graphics quality, that's what matters in these games. Such a beautiful world they have created. I mean, if this is the game, they've done a good job. So yeah, these are my findings. I hope you like this video, and do purchase this game, but don't pre-order. See the reviews, see the gameplay. If you like it, then only purchase the game. So that would be all for now. See you in another video. Thank you and bye bye.